Well, you know, I really had no intention to have a label, and it really was born out of necessity. You know, I wrote this music business book, Making Music Your Business, a guide for young musicians, many years ago. Actually, around the launch of the Cryptic Writings record. I wrote it during the Euthanasia album and tour cycle, mostly the tour cycle. The ideas were coming to me, and I just sit on my laptop on planes and basically wrote the book, and then edited it and found a publisher. I started writing a column for Bass Player magazine, and the editor, Jim Roberts, I said, hey, by the way, I have a manuscript that you might be interested in. He said, yeah, send it over to me. So he actually edited the book and got the book published through the publisher of Bass Player and Guitar Player magazine at that time. And so that led over the years to a lot of people asking me, like, you know, man, you should manage, or you should have a label, or, you know, and I was like, oh man, you know, couldn't be bothered. And then, you know, this last couple of years, I had some time where it started when I took the girls in Dalskin in the studio. Right. And I just, you know, a friend of mine just encouraged, said, listen, I know you really like that band. I hear you talking about them a lot. Something new that's been exciting for you. And really just I was more of a fan of theirs, to be honest with you. And so I took them to the studio, produced what became obvious to me would be an EP. I wanted, you know, 6 really great songs. I'm not a belief of these records. There became this trend in the 2000s where labels would insist that these bands would put like 15 songs on a record, and only one of them was a single. And then the rest of them were just like these throwaways. And I think the quality of the records were not that good. It was mostly for the labels to have more material for them, thinking more, if we just have more, we can sell it. And labels, this business became about value-added stuff, and artists were giving away everything so labels could sell records. So for me, I was just like, why wouldn't you just have it an EP of like 6 great songs? That to me makes more sense as a listener, as a fan. Right. You know, when I bought Cheap Trick and Kiss and Ted Nugent records as a kid, they were like killer records with great songs on an album, you know. And so that's me as maybe an older guy, an old school guy, you know. So fast forward, we make the record, this EP. I needed to put it out. I initially put it out through MRI, which is a division of Megaforce, and they worked a single on that record, and then, you know, their resources on it were kind of done, and I thought, man, we're just getting started here, you know. And so that's when my partner Tom, he encouraged me. He said, "Dude, we can do this." So he goes, "I've had labels. Let's just Tom Hazard, yeah." Right. He said, "Let's just put this." And he was kind of advising me on a lot of stuff during the Dalskin campaign, and because I not only produced it, I suddenly became a manager, and then the next thing you know, I became a record label, and so that, you know, again, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. You know, right. So here I am, you know, with my hand in all these different things, and so Tom, he said, he goes, look, let me start shopping for distributors. And E1, we got, you know, came to the table as and they really are. I mean, there's Sony, Warner Brothers, and Universal as the 3 majors. Right. E1 is just really right below them as the largest independent record distributor here in America, or North America, I should say. And they partner with SPV for Europe, and SPV's put out some of my favorite metal records out of Europe. I mean, God, their catalog of stuff. So here I am with the EMP label group, and I wanted to call it's Ellefson Music Production, but I wanted to, you know, abbreviate it EMP, and I wanted it to be label group because as much as we're starting with rock, punk rock, metal, underground stuff, I want it to be broad, and I kind of learned that from Capitol Records. I saw under the EMI umbrella years ago when Megadeth was on Capitol, I saw they had Blue Note, which is a jazz label. Capitol Nashville has their country artists. You know, there's often labels have a Christian division. You know, and they kind of segregate it out so that there's not a brand confusion. So to me, EMP label group is a, you know, kind of an overarching umbrella that we can put a lot of different labels and different genres and different things under it. And we've really started to expand it. So I mean, Tom has just been hitting the ground, you know, running, man, and he's got great ears, he's got good instincts and intuition, and I've learned a lot from him about how the label side of it works, and I paid attention. You know, I'm kind of this one musician guy who asked. I learned from my dad, who was I grew up on a farm, but he was a businessman, and I asked him a lot of questions. So I've always asked managers questions about publishing and all these things. So I've tried to absorb a lot, even though I'm on the stage and in the studio as an artist and a bass player and a musician and a songwriter, to be very broad. I mean, if this is my business I'm in, learn about the business that's around me. Well, there's
younger bands.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to it. I mean, obviously, you take a young group like Dalsky, who are teenagers, and I see me in them, and I see kind of my life. I watch them on kind of a similar trajectory that I had, so I get where they're at, and a lot of that is kind of mentoring them. And then at the same time, my friends like James Rivera from Hellstar, he's been around many years. I mean, I think he did dates with us on the P-Cells tour in Texas as when we were all a bunch of youngsters, But, here's James, who's been in the business a long time, been on a lot of different labels, put a lot of different records out. I even produced an EP for him back in '93 after we wrapped up the Countdown to Extinction tour. So, guys like James are, veterans, and they know the business, and to be able to help James put a record out, I think as the public and the press has come back to us, probably his strongest record, maybe ever, certainly in many, many years that he's put out. And I'm very proud to, be a partner and walk side by side with him with that. Same with like Patrick Kennison from the Union Underground, has a new group called Heaven Below. It's a terrific song. I mean, just great kind of 90s old school kind of rock and roll. Kind of reminds me of maybe Skid Row and Motley Crue and kind of that genre, and yeah, it's really cool, and Patrick, again, I knew Patrick when I did artist relations at PD. I mean, he and I worked together. His partner John Moyer now plays bass in Disturbed, and so again, a lot of these guys, to give them a shot at putting new records out, it's hard to start from the beginning. Even when you were a guy from a band like Union Underground, to start something new with a new name and a new brand. I had those experiences with F5 and some other Temple Brutality and some other things that I did, in the 2000s. So I know what that's like. So I guess maybe I have a kind of an empathy. I've walked a mile in those shoes, So to me, nothing's off limits.
Right.
Yet there's, I think Tom's pretty good with the criteria in the ears and to know what's marketable and what can sell, and because that's important too. And I think probably the hardest part is getting, bands trying to get on tour. Everybody wants to go on tour.
Right.
It's hard to get on tour. We're sitting here in an arena next to a football stadium in Seattle. It's hard to get on tour, man. It's difficult. And I think we're blessed with Megadeth so many years ago. I sometimes, it makes me think about how lucky we were, man, that people wanted us to come on tour. I remember driving from LA up here to Seattle to play some shows with Metal Church, at the, I think on the Killing Is My Business tour, back in '85. And that drive we had to do for no money, with no money, to get up here to play two shows, and I think we played Spokane and we played Seattle. And we almost weren't going to come. I remember we were going to cancel them, and somehow we got talked into it. And so that's why when bands, it's like, I know what it's like to do this with no money and no job. And I mean, believe me, I know. I've been there. I know. Dave and I have done all of it, So that's why I empathize. I also have no sympathy. It's like, you know what? Get in the friggin' van, get in the car, make it happen. You know what I mean? So that's the other side of, I think, what we do at the label is it's like, hey man, roll up your sleeves. Just because you're signed, that's not the end. That's where the work starts.
Guy with the cigar standing at the side of the stage saying,
we're still
hey,
in
son,
those days. We're still, I mean, the thing of it is, you always think, remember, it was my friend Greg Hannibal. We moved to LA together. We were in bands growing up together. We were the kids in grade school who saw us each wearing Kiss t-shirts or something, and we met and we moved together and met Dave together, and, the very origins of Megadeth, and I remember he sent me a message or an email one day, and he goes, dude, you've made it. I think it was like Rust in Peace or something, And I mean, on Rust in Peace, I was just coming out of a very bad drug addiction. I was newly sober. My guitar tech was making probably twice as much money as me. I'm making $20 a day on a per diem because I owed back taxes. I mean, I'm cleaning my life up. And in his mind, like, dude, you're on tour with Judas Priest. You've made it. We got this big backdrop. The stage that looks awesome. But in my mind, I was having to, reinvent my entire life, So again, perception, we sell the dream and we sell the perception, and Megadeth, I guess, is we've always we've been very blessed for sure, you know. But it's like I'm always, you know, we're always strategizing. What's the next step? What's the next step? You know, in our mind, we've never arrived. We're still on the journey after all these years.
Absolutely.
You know? So I think it's kind of the continuum.
You have to continue to work hard.
Yeah, we started the VMP Underground, the sampler. We've got Volume 1, and one of the things we thought about that we're getting so many submissions, and a lot of these groups have maybe it was too hard to sign 20 of these bands, but yet 20 of these bands all had at least one great tune and deserved at least a blip on the radar to be put out there, you know. And so we thought that the sampler was a great way to accomplish that, to help these groups. There's a way we could, again, get them on the on-ramp onto the freeway of rock and roll. And, you know, a couple of examples I saw of that years ago, Brian Schlegel, he had the Metal Massacre samplers that had, you know, Metallica, Rat, Armored Saint, a lot of the bands that were just coming up out of LA. Brian had the vision to get these bands and put them all on there. And then even with Megadeth, when we were signed to Combat, they did the sampler called a compilation called Bullets.
Right.
And I remember it had, I think, a Peace Cells, a version of Peace Cells on there.
Right.
Before we got signed to Capitol. And so they kind of was a compilation of a bunch of bands on the roster. So I like that idea. You know, it's a very kind of metal kind of concept, you know. And again, it's a good way for us, I think, to be able to extend our resources of EMP out to a whole bunch of other groups and at least help them get on the radar.
Well, I think that you've really given a lot of young artists some hope, because I think that there has been a period of time where a lot of young artists in bands have gotten frustrated and they feel like that there is no industry anymore.
Yeah, well, it's changed for sure, you know, and even in you know, between the digital streaming, the you know, there's kind of television, film, gaming. You know, music is it's a background.
Right.
It's not a foreground so much. You know what I mean? When I was growing up, if you had a flying V and a Marshall stack and long hair, like that was something to aspire to. Today, that's not. You know, we've got sports, we've got so many different things. You know, the internet. I mean, you know, the titans today are the, you know, creators of Facebook and, you know, the apps, and, you know, they're the rock stars of today. You know what I mean? So, you know, so I think sometimes we have to be realistic about that, where music fits in that. But you know what? Nothing replaces the emotional connectivity that happens with music. You know, that hasn't been created yet through technology, and technology hasn't been able to recreate the live concert experience, which is why the live concert side of the music industry is still viable. I mean, you can't phone in a live concert. You know, you just can't do it yet. You know, so it's you know, the people of, you know, again, nothing replaces the real emotional connection of humans coming together in a room and connecting.
You're right. You know, I was actually telling my son, I took my son, who's 23, and he's never actually been to a big rock concert. And I took him to Pain in the Grass. And I put him down in the pit. And I said, you just have to really experience this. And he's like, but Mom, I don't really like metal. And I was like, you really have to just go and experience it. And he was just like, he just loved it. Yeah. You know, like,
you know, I've seen, and there's a lot of different, you know, whether it's metal, whether it's, I mean, I don't like country music, but country music, for whatever that is, because I grew up on a farm around country music, so that's why, you
Minnesota
know, old
farm
school,
boy, right?
Yeah, Statler Brothers and Charlie Pride and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, even, you know, my daughter's into EDM music, and I've been with her to go to some shows, you know, and that's a whole other experience. But, and even though it's not my thing as a fan, I get it. It's a connection of bringing young people of a same kindred spirit together. And you know, in a live music setting, you know, and that's just it's like going to a party, man. It's like when the stereo's on, people are all grooving to the same tune, you know, whatever that is. We can all pick each other out because we got black T-shirts and we can find each other in the room, you know, and we hang. So.
That is true. Right? That is so true.
I didn't start out as a drug addict. I actually started playing when I was real young, and I grew up on a farm. You know, I had came from a great family, and I actually looked down on people that would drink and smoke. And I remember there was a singer one time in my band, and he'd smoke dope, and he'd forget the words. It's like, dude, you got one job to do, or sing the words, and he'd get high and he'd forget the words. You know? And you know, guys would drink beer, and we were all underage, so we weren't supposed to be doing any of this stuff anyway, which I guess is part of the rock and roll spirit about it all, But just kind of this allure of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And to be honest with you, I mean, I was a good little Lutheran kid, you know what I mean? So that life scared me, to be honest with you, And I was into it for the music, When I was listening to my Kiss records and all that stuff, I didn't know anything about any of the rest of that lifestyle. I was just really into the music, and so for me, once I had a beer at age 15, it just drew me into that world, and eventually took me into a cocaine and heroin addiction. And I was fortunate enough at age 25 to get sober and get out of it. I'm very lucky, and I've been able to get out of it and stay out of it. But and I remember there was a defining moment. I was sitting in my apartment in Studio City, and I was playing, and and I was just kind of like, God, do I even want to do this anymore now that I'm clean? And because that's the thing with drugs, is they cause you to lose the plot. You really lose your course, and all of a sudden this thought hit me. It was like, I got into this long before I ever tasted a drink or a drug, and I love this. And it was really kind of a God-inspired moment. That was just kind of like, what, that was really a cool thing.
The adrenaline rush was there before that happened.
Yeah, it hit me, and I was just kind of like, the dope and the booze just got in the way. that was a speed bump in my road to progress. It was not the wind in my sails. And all of a sudden I was kind of reborn in that moment. I just kind of went, man, of course I dig this. This is what got me out of bed and got me excited. And I'll never forget that moment, because it really changed. And then we went in, and we were writing the Rest in Peace record at that time. We were actually, I think, maybe just at that time auditioning Marty Friedman, and we're getting ready to go record the record, So it was a really interesting transition to come out of such a dark place and be to have my spirit kind of rekindled and fired up, and then go in and start cutting that record. And you hear a lot of piss and vinegar on that record, because we were newly clean and agitated and pissed off. You know what I mean? That's what you.
But I went through that same thing in life, man. It was like once I got rid of that, then all of a sudden it was just like the focus was there. Whereas I thought it used to enhance it.
Yeah.
Like it actually was just like it was cool, and it kind of used to amplify it. I mean, to take over the thing, but like
no,
you're really.
We're talking to a guy off camera, by the way.
Yeah.
He's actually a cameraman, but no, it really is. It's it's kind of the lie of addiction, and these kind of things that they show a little leg and it looks good, and then you get in, and next thing you know, it flips around like a boomerang, and it really takes you down. So I think, I'm just lucky to, I'm not an anti-drug or an anti-alcohol guy at all. I mean, there's people that can do that just fine, but I just know for me, and I think there comes that point of honesty with yourself, which is like, man, I couldn't handle it, so I had to get off that bus. And I've had the best years of my career ever since. So, this lifestyle it definitely has its temptations and its sort of kind of sin around it, So it's people that say, oh, I'm just in it for the music. It's like, well, there's a lot more to it than just the music. It is a business. There's marketing, and there's a lot of things that go into it. And I found that, once I, got cleaned up again, and I got really kind of focused in on that, and I think the label and some of these other things that I do now keep my attentions really focused on some other things. There's a lot of time in the day out here, so it's nice to have some other people that I'm paying attention to their careers and paying attention to what they're doing. I think that's a good. I found that to be a good use of my time and a good focus out here for me when I'm traveling the world as well. This whole thing has to come from passion, and it's as big as Megadeth is, we are still just four little dudes in a thrash metal band, you know what I mean? And it has to stay as big as it is out here. It has to stay that kind of small and passionate, because if you lose that passion, man, it doesn't matter how big the successes are. It can become, kind of kind of rewardless life, you know, and so the people that start with magazines and the internet and with the radio stations and the photographers and the people that are, you know, when we're all here together and, you know, kind of in it to win it, so to speak, you know, and it's like it has to really be about that passion. You know, what is your vocation? What is your calling? What are you on this earth to do? You know,
Right,
and I think that when you follow after that, you know, the rewards that come will be more rewarding, and
Right.
and they'll come in a level that you'll be appreciative of. And with that, I'm going to go to the stage and